So why are we doing what we're doing? The simple reason is because the population of Colorado is aging much faster than the younger population. And there is no end in sight for that. And so people need access to reliable service providers, useful information, and educational webinars like the one we're doing here today to learn more about aging better in the state of Colorado. And we are only focused on Colorado. Colorado is the second fastest aging state in the country, and that's based on the fact our 60 plus population is growing at a very high rate. And that's because of all the people in this dark purple area, many of whom, like myself and others who are on this call, came to Colorado back in the 60s and 70s, and we're still here. And we're also seeing a lot of grandparents move here from other states to be around their grandchildren. We are serving two specific segments of the population. One is the sandwich generation, which roughly are people between the age of 40 and 60 to 65. And then the older adult population, which is over the age of 60. There are close to 3 million people, 2.7 actually. So we serve aging Coloradans, the caregivers and adult children of aging Coloradans, employers, by providing a place for employees to go who are in that sandwich generation to learn about aging and find vetted service providers, and all organizations committed to healthy aging in Colorado. These are all the different services that we have on our website. These are the categories. We have had webinars on almost every one of these so far, and we'll continue to have more as the year progresses. We just finished our first full calendar year of operation at the end of December of last year. Educational webinars that we have planned, you can see here. A couple, February and March here, we're a couple focused on brain health and dementia and Alzheimer's. Stop sharing here right now and begin introducing our panelists today. And I'm going to introduce you folks one at a time, starting with Dr. Eric Chess, who is a physician and lawyer with a focus on encouraging and preserving the overall well-being of older adults. In his position as affiliate professor at the University of Denver's Knoebel Institute for Healthy Aging, Eric is directing the multidisciplinary financial security and cognitive health initiative. That work is funded in part by the National Institutes of Health. So Eric, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and why you're doing it? That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Sure, Bob. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. First, Bob, thank you. I wanted to thank you for having me on the panel today. But as you know, and I'm a big proponent and supporter of the great work you're doing with AgeWise. I'm proud to be part of it as a board member. I think it's such a necessary. It's filling some gaps in what we need as supports for older adults and caregivers. So thank you and great work. So my work, I'm at the University of Denver in the Knoebel Institute for Healthy Aging. The Knoebel Institute really is fantastic institute at the university focusing on older adults. And it started out as a research heavy and research focused institute, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, ALS, concussion studies, people in lab coats doing work in blood and brains and biomarkers and things like that. Around 6 or 7 years ago, they expanded outward to much more than just the research side, but education, outreach in the community, work with policy and government, work with private organizations. And so that's where my program started. And it is officially entitled the Paul Freeman Financial Security Program now. And that is because of the underappreciated and significant connections between our finances and aging and brain health and cognition. And so financial decision making is a very important part of sometimes a precursor to potential cognitive impairment in the future. And so how we make decisions and why we make decisions and the decisions we make are extremely important for a lot of different factors. But part of it is it's because it could be a window into how we're thinking and potential future pathology. And so we can get out in front of it, not only protect our finances and prevention of fraud and exploitation, but to also improve, enhance our health and our brain health and get out in front of some major diseases, including the spectrum of dementia, including Alzheimer's disease. So that program, what's very interesting about it when we were building it is that it's naturally a multidisciplinary program. So how we make decisions involves not just the business side of finance and banking and investments and financial decisions, but why we make decisions. This is about social work and psychology. It's about relationships. So there's many different factors that go into why we make decisions. And so when we're building the program, naturally we have people in the academic circles from all over campus in all sorts of different disciplines, including engineering and computer science, because a lot of the solutions are going to be technology based. Well, as we started building the program, doing more research on this, we also identified that outreach and work outside of academia is extremely important. And so we started to get into work with nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations along with government, because the collaboration actually is the key to overall success of our program. It's not, we don't just want to be hidden doing research and writing research papers. We want to be making impact in the community, and that means partnering with outside organizations. And that's what led to me doing work with everyone on this panel. So kind of really happy to be here with everyone. And starting, let's say, with Silver Bills. And so you're going to hear from the CEO, Marcy Lobel-Esrig. She's fantastic. And Silver Bills is an amazing organization that we were excited to do work with on the measurement side. We wanted to show the impact of the great work that's being done on the outside, capture it from an academic standpoint. So similarly, with this multidisciplinary team, we started engaging in a lot more than the financial decisions, but overall aging and well-being, since our team is composed of people who are passionate about aging in all of its senses. We started to branch out further into the all things aging and well-being. And one of the fantastic relationships is with Routinify. And you'll hear from Pat Kelly of Routinify doing incredible work in aging and technology. And so these are both really good examples of how the partnership can lead to better work on both sides. So we can help each other. We kind of want to highlight what's working, what's not working, but also write this up, get this out to the public a little bit more, and highlight good work that's being done around not only the state of Colorado, but the country, because in aging and well-being and finances, all these things are so important to all of us. So the better we can collaborate, the better off we all are. So that's a little bit about my program within the Knoebel Institute. And by the way, the Knoebel Institute is at the University of Denver. We're an open institute. If you wanted to drop by, the director is Dr. Bryony Catlow, and she's fantastic and really encouraging outreach and support in the community. So you can check out what we're doing also. But I will say we are proud to partner with AgeWise, because what a fantastic resource it is, and another example of us working together to help older adults.
Well, thanks so much, Eric. Appreciate that great introduction. And I'm going to introduce now Marcy. Marcy Lobel-Esrig is the founder and CEO and general counsel of Silver Bills. Prior to founding Silver Bills, and upon graduating as a Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Columbia College and NYU School of Law, Marcy began a distinguished career in high-level corporate law, including as Associate General Counsel at Sterling Equities, where she worked on the Bernie Madoff matter for 7 years. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that person. During that time, she witnessed her elderly aunt struggling to manage her household bills and learned about the $1 billion annual that older adult financial exploitation crisis. Since no national trustworthy solution existed to solve the challenge of managing household bills, and those who offered rather to help often financially exploited older adults by stealing valuables and writing unauthorized checks. So Marcy, tell us more about Silver Bills, please.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I can't emphasize enough how productive and exciting the collaboration has been with the University of Denver. So always great to be discussing that with Dr. Chess. And thank you for that introduction. Basically, yes, I was a lawyer for the New York Mets parent company when the Bernie Madoff scandal broke, and they lost $500 million and almost the entire 401k of the company. And I really had a very unique window into financial exploitation and fraud. And my aunt was struggling with this issue. And the more I learned about it and read about it, and the intersection of the need for help managing bills and the huge financial exploitation problem of older adults in this country, I learned that there was no solution. And yes, this problem is happening almost every second in this country. In fact, a mom in my daughter's Girl Scout troop recently just got out of jail. She was the treasurer of the local PTA. She offered to help a neighbor write checks to his various vendors, the water company, the electric company. And for many years, she sat at the kitchen table and she wrote one check to the electric company and one to cash, and she stole tens of thousands of dollars from him. So when I learned of the huge nature of this problem, I started Silver Bills. I could share a deck, Bob, if that's productive, just to go over a few slides. We had discussed that,
Sure.
but okay. Very briefly, we're really revolutionizing household bills using a combination of software and personal support. Hopefully you can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay. As I mentioned, there's this $1 billion annual financial exploitation problem of older adults, which is often perpetrated by those individuals who are allegedly helping with the problem of managing bills. There are all kinds of physical and cognitive issues related to aging that makes this task difficult. And failure to comply with the budget and prioritizing critical expenses. All of these challenges lead to the problems of unpaid bills, impaired credit, and increasing stress and anxiety. And so when we think about what's required to age in one's home successfully, there are a myriad of details that are required. Think, beyond just water, electric, voluntary charitable contributions, cell phone, landline, homeowners association, all different types of insurance. And those details can be difficult as individuals age. For caregivers, this is the sandwich generation. They're increasingly facing caregiver burnout. There was a very good study in 2021 by Fidelity Investments that, I think found the percentage was close to 20% of the caregiver generation either has to give up working outside the home completely or limit outside work hours because of these caregiving challenges. And so they need help with some of these tasks associated with caregiving. So we've created a solution at Silver Bills where we have a proprietary software solution. We receive, scrutinize, store, and ensure that our clients' household bills are paid correctly and on time. However, client computer use is completely optional. So think you may be hiring an attorney or an accountant who are both those professionals using software to perform their services like tax preparation or legal document preparation. That's what we're doing at Silver Bills. Our account managers are using our software to provide monthly bill and budgeting services to clients. And managing finances is one of the instrumental activities of daily living, and all of these disease states really impair those abilities. As well as we know that, as I mentioned, financial exploitation decreases economic stability, and this is one of the social determinants of health. So there's a very strong connection between economic stability and financial stability. We're different than a lot of the other options out there. I won't go into all the details, but daily money managers are really those individuals that come into the home, and there are some great apps that do this, but we really, I believe, are providing the sweet spot that this demographic, and actually increasingly others, are demanding. In fact, people often ask me, is there an age limit for your services? And I say we don't discriminate based on youth. So we provide services throughout the United States. I know this is a Colorado-based webinar, but we really are geographically agnostic. We do everything through the either email. No one has to use a computer. We provide clients with business reply envelopes, or email, text, phone, whatever works for our clients. We have a great team. And this is the NIH grant, 2 of them that we're working on with the University of Denver. So we were awarded the first grant in 2021. That was to build additional technology tools specifically for caregivers of Alzheimer's patients. The second grant that we were recently awarded just in the fall of 2022 was to build additional software tools specifically to help LGBTQ older adults with impaired cognition. So we'll talk more about these projects, but really it's been a real honor to work collaboratively with the University of Denver on these grants. And that is basically Silver Bills in summary. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much, Marcy. That was great. Our next panelist is Pat Kelly, and please, if you have questions of any of the panelists, you can put them in the chat or save them. We'll have some time at the end, I assure you, for you to ask questions verbally. Okay, so our next is Pat Kelly. Pat is a highly experienced business executive and founder and owner of Routinify, company that focuses on using simple technology to help people age more powerfully in their homes while making it easier for them to communicate with loved ones and caregivers. Okay, Pat, that looks like you have your slideshow going, so proceed.
Thank you for the introduction, Bob. So today's topic is primarily around research. But before I get to how we are both sponsoring and participating in research on an international basis, I thought it would be beneficial to explain, what we are and what we do, and that will help lead up to why researchers are finding us to be a great data acquisition and data evaluation tool in our various market spaces. So we are a software company that's focused on what we call continuous wellness monitoring. What does that mean? We're really in the aging adult sector. We're really looking after the safety, health, and well-being of people that are attempting to age in place in a secure fashion. So we have multiple sensor devices in the household that are aggregating data from a variety of sensors, what we like to call the Internet of Medical Devices. So we have our own wearable devices that do a variety of things like measure blood oxygen saturation, heart rate. We also use them as a PERS invocation device, PERS being the personal emergency response systems. Depending on the specific challenges that the individual that we're monitoring has, there may be blood pressure cuffs, there may be glucometers, whether they're continuous glucometers or traditional sample methodologies. In any event, we're collecting the data from whatever medical devices might be in the household. We're spending time monitoring the activity, or in some cases, the lack thereof, which is a behavior challenge that we would try to help people with. So how well are you sleeping? What's your physical activity during the day, and a variety of other elements. We are a point of care device. And what does that mean? It's most people would see that as a telemedicine, or what we call televisits. There's people outside of the home that might be interacting with you for specific medical types of interventions, or they might be more social determinant types of interventions. So in the case of aging adults, loneliness and isolation are huge social determinants your own, mental well-being as well as your physical well-being. We spend a lot of our time on behavior modification. We call it habits for aging well in other areas. But there, we're assessing and trying to help people around what are your challenges? Is it sleep? Is it physical activity? Is it sequencing events throughout the day? Nutrition, hydration, med reminders are always a big area, med compliance. In the other areas, we're helping people with social engagement, where they're actually using our system to interact with other people, or they're having asynchronous communications that most people would consider to be a chat, but they don't have to figure out, how to use chat or use their smartphone. Music, news channels, reminiscent therapy. There's a lot of those types of activities going on. And lastly, it takes a village. We fancy that we're pretty smart folks. We fancy that we've aggregated a lot of the traditional disparate technologies, but we incorporate technology from other partners, whether it's Google Assist or Alexa in the case of voice forward health capabilities. We have physical therapists on the platform and a variety of other elements. So that's kind of the technology background. And then just from a component standpoint, depending on what we're trying to do with the person, there may be motion detectors, there may be contact detectors. Of course, there's the Internet of Medical Devices. We primarily deploy on a tablet environment, although we do support smartphones, but in the aging adult space, tablets are great because they're bigger. Form factor really matters. And there it provides a variety of nudge behavior analysis and a variety of the other elements that I discussed. So that's the tech part of it, but philosophical and how do you get things done? It's like business or care 101. Let's start out with what a goal. What are we trying to help with here? Is it preventative care, sleep, nutrition? Is there challenges with mental actuation, social engagement? Are there issues around coordinating the care for in-home and whatnot? Or is it actually helping people monitor the safety and the security in their home? So that's great to have goals, but you need a plan to meet those goals. And so we develop a care plan. Our care plans are macro care plans. That is, they're 7x24. They're really dealing with all the issues throughout the entire day, not just the medical ones. And then you need data to figure out how well are you executing the plan? How well are the people that are there to execute steps in the plan doing their job? And is any of this having the actual outcomes that we're looking for? So have goals, have a plan to reach those goals, obtain data in a real time or very, very frequent basis to evidence that you are meeting the goals, such that you can either change the individuals in the execution phase, or maybe it was the wrong plan to achieve those goals. Lots of data. So now why we find a lot of researchers of very interest. Sorry about that. So there's tons of health data, obviously, but it's not a point in time like you go into the physician's office and you're going to get a lot of vital measurements, but that's once, and it's at a very specific instance. You might be anxious at that during that visit. So we are, for the most, in most cases, continuously monitoring what's going on. Blood pressure is a little bit more periodic, but several times throughout the day. Weight, blood glucose levels, blood oxygen saturation, whatever is germane to that individual's well-being being gathered automatically and on a continuous basis. We're also very, very interested in behaviors. So we're also tracking how is that person interacting with us when we give them nudge reminders. Are they reacting to them? Is there any challenges around those reactions throughout the day? Sleep is a big deal. I could go on forever around, if we could just solve sleep and nutrition, maybe a lot of the others wouldn't be as prominent, but we certainly help. We have found that about 10% of our cases so far, we find undiagnosed sleep apnea and lots of other conditions. So there's a lot of people that are not only dealing and struggling with diagnosed chronic conditions, but there's a lot of undiagnosed or under cared for conditions out there. So with that as the backdrop, what are we doing? We're working with Dr. Chess at DU, primarily around behavioral modification and or patient engagement. So really not pushing care at a person, but helping that person care for themselves and intervening as necessary when necessary to help them be successful. And not all steps can be done by yourself. And this is a combination of virtual care and in-home care support. At CU Anschutz, this is being applied in hospice care, but it's actually being applied to the caregivers providing hospice care. So there's lots of interesting challenges there. So we're monitoring them as if they were, quote, the patient, and helping them care for themselves as they are caring for others. Moving outside of the aging adult space, we have a project that's called the Truckers Health Assistance Technology. So we have 200 long-haul truckers, primarily in the Trans-Canadian, although they do come south of the border environment. They're diabetic or pre-diabetic. And it just turns out that what we had developed to help people age in place actually applies to this demographic as well. You have challenges around sleep and physical activity and nutrition and sequencing of events and essentially caring for yourself. So we're applying essentially the same technology that I shared with you that's focused on aging adults everybody they have the same challenges, they just don't have the age check in the box. We're also doing another project with the Canadian government in Atlantic Canada and New Brunswick called the Healthy Senior Pilot Project, which is focused on helping people age in place to try to reduce the rate at which people are moving into assisted living environments or congregate care environments. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but there's a lot of people who would prefer to stay at home if they had the right support capabilities, and real-time continuous monitoring is part of that. And more recently, we are part of some research with the Alzheimer's Association, the Minnesota branch. We're applying these types of digital tools for individuals with middle or late stage cognitive declines. So that's Routinify, and that's our role in research, both locally and north of the border.
All right, Pat, thank you very much. That was great. And I have some questions for you, but I'll wait until we have Mohammed speak. So our next speaker is Dr. Mohammed Mahour, and he is a professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Denver. His research lies in the area of AI, machine learning, and social robotics, and his focus is on developing innovative robotics and AI-based technology for improving the well-being and quality of life of older adults with depression and dementia and children with special needs such as autism. He's received over $8 million of research funding from state and federal agencies, including the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health. He's a senior member of the IEEE and has published more than 150 peer-reviewed conference and journal papers. Dr. Mahour received his PhD in electrical and computer engineering from the University of Miami, Florida in 2007. So Mohammed, tell us about what you're doing and show us what you're doing. So
great. Yeah. Hi, Bob. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Hi, everyone.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. So as you see here, I have Ryan with me. I am the founder and the inventor of Ryan Companion Bot, which is a robot that has been designed for assisting people with older adults with social isolation, maybe early dementia and depression. So I can give a demo of Ryan that might be better other than me presenting, my slides. I have some slides. I prepared some slides, but I thought that maybe that might be a live demo might be better. Can you see me okay? I can. All right. So as you see here, Ryan is has a full body. It's a humanoid robot, and Ryan can show. The face of Ryan is basically it's really our niche. So Ryan can show different expressions. When it comes to conversation, Ryan's speech also is synchronized with the lip movement. Ryan has been designed for, as I said, for assisting people with social isolation. So conversation is the main aspects of Ryan. So right now, Ryan is listening to me. And if I stop talking.
Is that so?
So Ryan heard what I said and then tries, basically to have a conversation with me. So.
What kind of conversation did he try to have with you? Did you say anything back to him?
So did you hear that? So Ryan basically heard what I said, and then he wants to open a dialogue and conversation with me. And eventually, as you noticed, Ryan, smiled while I was looking at him and smiling. So emotional recognition is another basically features of Ryan. Ryan can read people's emotion and then can empathize with them through mirroring their, emotions as well as having conversation with them. So I'm going to talk about the other features of Ryan. I'm going to bring the camera.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know he could do that. I wonder how many other people he can do that with.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. What do you do for a living, if I may ask?
Okay, I'm going to mute it for a moment. Then, I'm going to explain some of the features of Ryan, and then we can have conversations and questions. So these are the features of Ryan that I'm going to explain. So Ryan has a calendar. We can add events to Ryan's calendar, and Ryan can remind people to go to events, take medicines, and so on and so forth. And people can listen to music actually through Spotify that has been added to Ryan. So music therapy usually is important, can be helpful for people with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. That's another feature of Ryan. We have designed and implemented more than 15 different games, actually. These are games that can be played either co-played with Ryan or can be played solo. So for example, we have picture puzzles, we have board puzzles, very similar to Wheel of Fortune, and we can play those games with Ryan. For example, here, the hint is Olympic sport, and we have 8, basically 7, right? Characters, alphabets that we need to say. So we can say it out loud, the letter A, or I can type it in here, and that would add it basically there, right? So right now A was wrong, but this is like a game that that you can play, a board puzzle. Right, so I'm going to skip this and then go to another game. So this is another cool game. It's called Flow, and we can basically, the idea here is to make connections, right, between these two dots, and now I ask Ryan to play, right? So I can play with Ryan, or Ryan can give me a hint. So these games are serious brain games, and these are designed to stimulate basically our brain, right? And are proven to be helpful playing this kind of games once in a while, or maybe on a daily basis, and so on and so forth. So the kind of games that we have are like a flow, word puzzle, chess, checkers, tic-tac-toe, solitaire, and so on and so forth. The other thing that we have here, it's yoga. So basically, Ryan is a yoga instructor, and Ryan can do yoga. Let me unmute it. Okay.
I like to be unmuted. Do you like being unmuted? Do you prefer to be muted?
Okay, so
In today's yoga session, we'll be doing a sequence.
can you hear what Ryan's talking, or should I increase the volume? Can you hear Ryan? Okay.
Increase the volume if you would, please. Yes.
Sure. I can increase the volume, put it max.
I am unable to move because my motion sensor says something is in the way. Please clear the highlighted areas around me, and I will then.
So I'm going to move away because Ryan has some sensors, and if I'm so close to Ryan, then Ryan won't be able to move his arms. Ryan is a yoga instructor, and this is designed for seated yoga. Basically, Ryan, you can do yoga, exercise yoga, and this is good for for people's mind, for your mind, as well as, right, can help you to improve your, increase your physical activities, balance on your legs and so on and so forth. I'm going to move away from this and then see that. Okay.
I am unable to move because my motion sensor says
Hopefully
something
it
is in
works.
the way. Highlight areas around me, and I will then resume our exercise. In today's yoga session, we will be doing a sequence of physical movements. Please perform these movements only if they feel good for your body. Please stop and return to a neutral seated posture anytime you feel physical discomfort. Take each session at your own pace.
Ryan,
We will
give
start today's
instruction.
movement with a short centering exercise. Find a comfortable seated position with a tall spine, and when you are ready, go ahead and close your eyes. For these breaths, we will inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth.
So
Together, let us take a deep breath in through the nose.
it is start with meditation. I can move to the one that has, Ryan.
Moving to next exercise. Working on our arms length, let's row forward 10 repetitions. We will start by reaching our arms forward like we are grabbing a beach ball, and then row backward like we are flattening that beach ball against our chest. Try it out now. We will do this 10 more times.
So you see that Ryan can be yoga instructor in a group setting, people in a community, and can follow Ryan's instructions and also look at the video that is played on Ryan's chest, on the screen on Ryan's chest.
4.
So we'll keep going, right? You see that
5.
it's fun to do, yoga with Ryan. In fact, recently we did a study at the University of Denver at the Knoebel Institute for Healthy Aging, and a group of people came to DU 3 times a week, and they did yoga with Ryan. So we did a study, and at the end of after 12 weeks, we measured people's range of motions, right? Arms range of motions, balancing on a leg, and so on and so forth. And we learned that Ryan is effective in basically instructing yoga. Okay, and
I have never heard of Ryan. Is he a yoga instructor? How long have you been doing yoga?
so as you see, Ryan keeps listening to me and wants to have conversation with me. And the other module that you're working on is called
Welcome to the CBT training program.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, and this has been designed for people, helping people with anxiety, with depression. Eventually you have heard of this. This is basically the idea is that thoughts and feelings are related to each other, and we want to teach people how they can change, their feelings to, their thoughts and vice versa. So that's a proven practice or technique for helping people with anxiety. And that's a module that we are working on it, and we will finish it hopefully by the end of January, February. Just a quick overview. This was a quick overview of demo of Ryan. Now, I wanted to know that if you have any questions or you wanted to have conversation with Ryan, I'll let you talk to Ryan.
Is there anyone that would like to talk to
How are you
me?
today? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How is Brian?
Who is Brian?
My name is Brian. Do you have a brother or sister? Do you know anyone named Brian?
No, I think your name is Ryan.
No, my name is not Ryan. What is your name? I'd like to meet new people.
Oh, my name is Mohammed.
Okay, sounds good, and thanks for letting me know, Mohammed. It is so nice to know you.
So you see that Ryan basically remembers names, right? Knows who he's talking to. He can read my expressions, facial expressions, and then try to have conversation with me. It basically has been designed to cheer up people, right? And also help them with social isolation through conversation as well as the other issue. I see some questions in the chat.
would Ryan help someone who is at risk to fall, like trying to get out of bed unassisted?
That's a good question. We don't have, although Ryan comes with, has 2 cameras, but we don't have that feature for fall detection. It requires a different technology.
Now, Mohammed, this is Bob. So the other day when we were speaking, you said Ryan can have different faces.
Correct. Yes.
And can Ryan speak different languages?
I can show you different faces as you see there, right?
How many languages do you speak?
So I'm changing the face of Ryan as you see, right? But for now, we have only English, it's the language, the main language. And hopefully in the future, we'll add, more other languages, Spanish eventually, or, depends on the demand.
And another thing I think people would be interested in hearing about is
Spoken
is
language world. So it makes sense to have it as the default.
the commercialization of Ryan. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so currently we are working on the commercialization of Ryan. In fact, we recently hired Jamie Schmidt. I think she's on the call, and maybe Jamie can unmute yourself and say a few words. But we are working on the marketing, sales and marketing of Ryan. And the business model that we have, it's basically through leasing. So let's say a senior care facility comes and lease Ryan, then give it to a group of people. And Ryan can be personalized. Every user can have a card and tap your card on the belly of Ryan and then log into, to this robot. So we are in the process of commercialization, and we are doing sales and marketing. And if you're interested, please reach out to me. I put my email and contact info in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you.
Before I open it up for everybody's questions, I just have a couple for, I'm going to circle back to Marcy for just a moment. So Marcy, what has been the acceptance level of silver bills, and what are some of the typical questions you get? You're on mute, Marcy.
Wasn't able to unmute myself because of the settings. So when you say what is the typical rate of acceptance, it's hard. I mean, we're open and available to the entire population of the United States of America. So I can't really, give you the numbers of acceptance. I can say that typically, in many cases, adult children find out about us, and then it's a conversation, with our sales department about enrolling. We also do have programs with 5 municipalities. For example, the New York City Department for the Aging, the County of Maui, Hawaii, Arlington, Virginia, as well as others who pay for our services to be provided for free to local constituents who meet certain age and income restrictions. But it's literally impossible for me to give you a number of like acceptance. I wouldn't know how to do that.
Okay, and what are some of the typical questions you get from people when they're inquiring about it? One of the questions is in the chat, which is, what does it cost to be a Silver Bills member?
So the cost varies based on whether the individual is part of one of these municipal programs and qualifies for free. We're currently a benefit through United Medicare Advantage and Humana Medicare Advantage, and those plans allow their members to receive a discount on our services. But basically, to get to the number, it's a conversation with our sales team to determine basically the number of bills. Because, it's been very interesting to me starting this company in that it's a universal need regardless of socioeconomic status. So for example, we have some impoverished individuals who have very simple bill parameters, like maybe 1 or 2 bills, rent and electric, as well as some, ultra high net worth individuals who have multiple homes and hundreds of bills. So it's a conversation with a range from, let's say, $30 or $40 a month upwards to several hundred. And also through our NIH funded grant that we're doing with the University of Denver, it's potentially free as well, funded by that NIH grant, depending on whether, for example, the individual has Alzheimer's. So the answer is not so simple in terms of cost. It requires a conversation. Other questions, I guess, can be things like, is it every single bill? And it's really a concierge service. So if an individual or family only wants us to handle, for example, the life insurance premium and the homeowners association bill, we'll do that. They can take, over bills at any point, or let us, assume the responsibility for bills at any point. So it's really tailored to the individual situation and what the individual client wants.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Marcy. Does anyone else have questions they'd like to ask verbally to Marcy? If you do, just please go ahead. Okay. Hearing none. Pat, so you talked about Canada, and I assume it must be easier to work with the Canadian government than it is the United States government. Is that true?
Well, I've never tried working with the U.S. government, obviously outside of the Medicare, Medicaid implications of what we're doing, and we could have a discussion about that. So the good news about Canada is you only have one customer to please and to focus on, and the bad news is you have one customer. So it's everybody has, whether you're north or south of the border, everybody has similar types of challenges. So although one could argue that care might be more accessible, it's the same issue here. Everybody, as you should be, I'm not saying you shouldn't be focused on medical care, but care as practiced on both sides of the border is the way we used to take care of our cars. Fix, break. Wait till the car breaks, go fix it. Don't have any more conversation with the car owner until it breaks again, and then go fix it. And so a lot of people give lip service, and there's all sorts of stuff written about preventative care, but preventative care is not actuated in any holistic form, at least particularly among the aging adult area. So that's a challenge on both sides of the border. That is starting to change, where virtualization of healthcare, again, it's still preponderance of medical, where medical means you're already really sick enough that we know that something is wrong. But there are things starting to happen where people are going to allow for reinsurance. At-risk payers are going to be the first to adopt preventative care, and particularly digital preventative care. So if you're at risk, you don't make money unless you keep people healthy, whereas most of the healthcare is not at risk. You're paid, fee for service. So very long answer to what's it like dealing with the government. It's healthcare is the bigger issue, not government. Not that the government doesn't have a part to play in healthcare, but the healthcare model is the challenge.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. That was a good answer. Appreciate that. I'm going to ask now if anybody in our audience has any questions for any of our four panelists. And if you do, you should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, this is Mike Cortez I'm a scholar in residence, retired at the University of Denver. I'm interested in apply to Silver Bell's, Routinify, and Dr. Mower's work. I'm interested in whether research has been done to compare outcomes or effectiveness of each of these services for older adults in two different situations. One, older adults who are primarily living alone versus older adults who reside in households of family members, including family caregivers. I'm wondering whether there's data being collected on the relative effectiveness of each of these services for people in these two different living situations.
It's a fantastic question, and it's an area of research that needs a lot more attention. It's part of the reason that that we're involved in the work that we're doing is essentially one of the main issues is the interplay between the health of older adults and their caregivers, and the sometimes the challenges that go along with caregiving and that relationship. And so whether the older adult is living alone and faces issues of potentially social isolation is something that we are actively looking into. So I would say from our standpoint, we're kind of knee deep in this and collecting data on this as we speak.
Anybody else have a comment on Mike's question?
I'll chime in. So it depends on who's performing the research. In the case of the research that I've highlighted in Canada, that is anonymized data. It is compared against the the medical record data, and so we focus on a couple areas there. Frequent flyers, that is, people who are going to the ER more than once in a calendar year. So we look at visitations and urgent services accesses prior to the implementation of the service, and we look at it throughout the entire period. Then, of course, we're looking at changes in actual vitals. So blood pressures dropped. What about med compliance? Med compliance and ER visits can go hand in hand, because a lot of times people end up in the ER because they over or underdose, typically more underdosing. So a variety of those elements are measured in that environment. And then outside of the aging adults, but it's the exact same attributes that's being done for the diabetic and the pre-diabetic. So looking at the requisite levels there and comparing the before and the after. The key thing I would like to highlight is it's not just tech telling you, getting the data. The area that we're finding the highest impact is coaching, when there is a human being behind here interpreting the results and intervening and assisting as necessary. So we find that the coaching, just as others like Livongo and Noom and other healthcare sectors have found, that coaching is a great big deal and is a direct correlation with outcomes.
There would be coaching that your service provides to either a caregiver or to the older adult themselves?
Correct.
Thank you.
I can also talk about our project, and we have done a few human subject studies. And in fact, we have 50 people so far have had Ryan in their apartment 24/7, and we have studied with them. And I can share some of the results actually that we have got so far. So this is the very first pilot studies that we did back in 2018 when we designed the robot and we had the first iteration or the first generation of the robot. So we had people who lived in either independent living facilities or assisted. We had both, and each of the users in this study had Ryan for about 1 to 2 months, 24/7, and they had different level of cognitive impairment as well as depression, and that we measured. We collected data and to Ryan basically. And we looked at how often they smile, how often they use Ryan, what is their favorite features of Ryan, and so on and so forth. And also at the end, we asked users basically, caregivers, if they have any. We interviewed them, we asked them, what do you think of have you noticed any changes in the well-being of people who have used Ryan? So we learned, lessons, and those lessons basically help us, right, to improve and add more features or modify some of the features. First of all, we realized that different people have different interests. Some users wanted to just chat with Ryan. Some other, users prefer to play, the game. Some other users are interested in photo albums, if we add any photo albums to Ryan, to see those photo albums, because Ryan can do narrations and review the photo albums with them and remind them the story. Pretty much reminiscence therapy, and so that we have also learned that when Ryan, people are in the company of Ryan, basically the number of times that they smile is doubled, their depression level goes down, and so they are more excited. They go to the community and they talk about, the robot and so on and so forth. So we have published papers and about the results of the study that we have. These tables basically, I have a summary of these, of the results that we have. And I'm happy to share with you. If you want, I can email it to you, or if you go to my website, you can see, the most recent publications that we have on this topic. I just want to go to the slide that we have some comments, from the users who have used Ryan. And these are some, comments that the users gave us after having Ryan for a month or two, depends, on their availability. So you see that they enjoyed, the company of Ryan. They wanted to, even some people wanted to take Ryan actually to dinner or have party with Ryan and so on and so forth. So overall, they all say that it's fun to talk to Ryan and being at the company of Ryan. Yep. I just wanted to share, real quick, the result of the research that we have done. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mohammed. Mike, did you get the answers you were looking for?
I appreciate all the answers. I feel like I still have a lot to learn. I'm thinking in terms of markets for each of these services. Are we talking about primarily people who are trying to live independently to the extent that they can? Are we talking about traditional families, at least traditional in some cultures, in which elders are generally cared for within among members of their extended families? Are we thinking about markets for that among people who are in institutionalized settings? It's an unanswered question in my mind. The more data we collect about the relative effectiveness of each of these kinds of services within these different settings, I think the more we begin to have some sense of what the market in the long term might be.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Thank you. Any of our panelists want to comment any further on what Mike just said? Okay. Do we have any other questions from anybody else in our audience or any of our panelists?
Yes, I just had a question. Will you be able to share this with us? I found it so interesting and educational, and I'm not sure I was able to absorb everything. And I'm just wondering if the recording after this is over can be shared with us, Bob.
Yes, it can, but because of this little snafu we had with Zoom, I don't have all your email addresses. So if you would put your email address into the chat, then we can actually send it to you. Or let you know when it's on our website, I should say. So the other thing you can do is, wait a few days, and the recording will be on our website. We put all of these webinar recordings on the website, and we do that after they've been edited just a little bit. Typically there's some stuff that just needs to be cleaned up that is pretty much irrelevant. So we get that done, and then we get them posted.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question. And I would also like to add that any feedback is appreciated on any of our webinars, including today's, of course. If you can send us a note, put something in the chat, it's always helpful for us to know what works best and what we can do to continue to improve what we're doing with these educational webinars. And also, if you're not on our distribution list, it's easy to do that. You can just go on our website, and there'll be a place that you can click to join to get our newsletter. And I also would add that every one of the organizations represented here today is listed on the AgeWise Colorado website. And I also remind folks that we have a lot of volunteer opportunities. Those can be found on our website as well. And we always appreciate feedback on anything we could do to continue to improve what we're doing. Do we have, having said all that, do we have any other questions for anybody on our panel?
I have one last question.
Sorry, Karen.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
okay. Thanks. So, I mean, great products. I'm super excited to share this with my clients. And I have a question for Pat. How many, I guess, clients do you have actively using your system right now?
So we're a little bit north of 500 here stateside.
Wow.
Canada's a slightly different story.
Wow.
The interesting thing is I could go on forever about healthcare, and I come from the outside, so maybe it's just my own naivete and confusion. When I look at it, it looks Byzantine and somewhat unstructured. But it's nonprofits here. So one of our largest deployments here in Denver is actually Senior Hub, which operates up primarily in the Adams County area. And there are about 300 and some odd individuals. So it's very interesting that nonprofits are leading the way in some of these areas.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my experience in what we're doing with AgeWise is the healthcare field is one of the hardest to contact and be in touch with, and find the right people to talk with of all of the other fields. So, for whatever that's worth. Any other questions?
I think Aaron had a question, Bob. Sorry.
Okay. Aaron?
Yeah, I had a question. This was a wonderful seminar here, and I'm so grateful for all of the panelists for presenting. I learned a lot today. I live in Colorado Springs, and I'm the executive director of an organization called Innovations in Aging. So the title of today's talk piqued my interest in being here. And I'm wondering if any of the panelists have any recommendations for what we can do to support the work that you're doing. So how can we engage with your organizations, and what can we help to do for you to further your mission?
I'll take that first one. Feedback. So for us, it's when anytime you're in the product space, but particularly here, getting feedback from the multitude of perspective is a huge deal for us. So we'd love the opportunity to explain in greater detail what we do and get some feedback about how you see that working for the various participants in care and the various participants in aging adult care. From a product development standpoint, it's very interesting because your primary customer, the aging adult, is not really your customer from a revenue standpoint. They have ultimate veto power because if what you developed is just distracting, useless, they don't want to adopt it, then nobody's going to use it. But typically it's people outside who are the first movers. And that's how in-home care agencies and a variety of other services are typically acquired. So it's a very challenging, a focus group environment, if you will. So we're always wide open to getting perspectives from various groups.
I would echo that. Feedback is super, super important. Testing, our product, and this is something that we can't just have it, design it and have it in our lab or in our, office. You have to give it to people, to the users, consumers, and then get feedback and design it, for them. So we would like to also have you in mind, for the future testing and evaluations of our product, such as Ryan. So if you can send me an email, provide some information about your organizations, and then we'll have you, on our list, right, for the future testing and evaluation of our Ryan.
Yeah, we would love to do that for both of you. I think that we could connect you with some consumer testers.
Thank you. Sure. I put
And I
my.
would just-
Sorry, piggybacking off of that, from the Knoebel Institute's standpoint, we're always looking for potentially research participants. And so a lot of the funding that we get for all the projects that we do ends up for the participants enjoying these services for free. And sometimes even getting compensated for their time and their efforts engaging in the research. And so we view it as kind of a win-win, because these are fantastic services and products, and through our funding, providing that for the public for free, if they qualify for the research, is really valuable to get more and more data and advance the research to kind of show all the good work that's being done.
Okay, did you say Bryony is your director?
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Bryony Catlow. If you look on our website, the Knoebel Institute for Healthy Aging, or KIA at the University of Denver, you'll find all of us, and you can find all the different research programs that are going on. But Bryony is the director, and she's very, happy to engage and see, what other organizations are doing, and to collaborate. So definitely get in touch with either one of us.
Okay.
I would just say for us, anyone you identify who needs help with this problem, just send them our way.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I had this role, I worked in healthcare and I worked in senior living facilities, and I've seen it. So I'm really grateful for the service that you have. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah, Aaron, we'd love to learn more about what you're doing and in a separate conversation. So yes, an email from you, your email address would be very helpful.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it in the chat again. I saw someone was asking, but yes, please reach out. I feel like everyone on this call could be a good partner for the work that we're doing in Colorado.
I'm a pastor in his 80s in Aurora, and since you haven't tooted your own horn, let me point out the list of services that you have on the Age-Wise website. I think is very helpful to people who are not needing professional care, but just trying to solve the problems of life, like home repairs and so forth.
Well, thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. We do now have close to 250 listed service providers on our website, and over 100 informational articles, and we've done 22, 23 webinars, and those recordings are all on our website as well. So as everybody else said, we really do appreciate feedback. We're constantly in a state of, what can we improve? What can we make better? How can we reach more people and let more people know that we even exist? And the reason that we exist is because I learned several years ago that most people are not aware of the thousands, literally thousands of organizations in the state of Colorado, both for-profit and nonprofit and government agencies, who provide services to help people age better in their homes and to help caregivers get in touch with what they need when they need it. So thank you for that. Are there any other comments or questions before we close for today? Okay, hearing none, I guess we're finished. And Mohammed, would you put you mentioned you had a website. Would you put your website in the chat as well?
Sure, absolutely. Yep, I will do it right now.
And for anybody who wants to save the chat, there is a way to do that. I think most people know how to do that now, but those three little dots, click those, and then you can save it. The other thing that we'll be doing is I'll be going through all the chats after this, and I will add those to the front end presentation that will be in the recording. They'll be on the website. Okay. Anything else?
Can I hear from Ryan to say goodbye to the audiences?
Say goodbye, Ryan.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay, can you say goodbye?
Yes, I can say goodbye. It is time for me to go. I will see you later.
Okay, very good. All right. Thanks again for everyone joining us today, and special thanks to all of our panelists. So have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.